Hey everybody, welcome to the Hanger Bud Show. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to get more flight students. Before we kick things off, this is the show that all we talk about is aviation business. And I have my clipboard with me. As you guys already know, I always say that, but this keeps me on track. So today's topic, how to get more flight students. This is the golden question, obviously, if you're a flight instructor running your own side gig or a side business, or if you're a flight school looking to grow your school, obviously getting more students in the door is what you will need to do to grow. So we're going to cover that topic today. We're going to cover a theory of how to look at how to get more students and what's worked for us, and hopefully it works for you guys. I'm going to be looking at my clipboard a lot just to make sure I hit all the points that I've thought about for this episode, so please forgive me on that. But we're going to start off by looking at the customer from a business perspective. So the customer is the student in this case, but we're going to look at it from a business perspective. We're not going to look at it from a CFI or training perspective. So the one thing that we like to do is look at the customer or student from a business cycle perspective or a life cycle perspective. And this simply means from the minute you meet your customer to the minute they leave, what does that cycle look like? Because it is a cycle, and it should be looked at that way. That way you can break down what areas you need to improve on within the customer life cycle. If you're just getting started, then obviously you need to establish a customer life cycle, and we're going to give an example here shortly. But it's very important that you do something like this just so that you have a flow and a repeatable process. This helps you as a CFI or flight school established process. It also helps create value for the customer so that they know what to do next, or you guide them through your training or your service. So we're going to break it down into three. We're going to give an example. There's tons of ways to look at a customer, but we're going to break it down into three areas, and that's inception, fulfillment, and completion / advocation. So we're going to kind of break down each cycle, and we're going to talk about each one and how to come up with a process for each one. So starting off with inception. Oh, before we even do that, I have here to consider writing this down. So consider writing your customer life cycle down. Whether you do it on a Word doc or a Google Doc and you make a chart and make it fancy, or you just write it down, but you want to write down your customer life cycle and pin it up next to your office, where you get ready every morning, whatever. It's another one of those things that you want to look at on a reoccurring basis so that you can see what needs improvement. And over time, as we all know, if you keep repeating things, you it ends up being ingrained into your memory. So the whole point here is to have a life cycle established and to memorize it. So we're going to give you an example. You're more than welcome to use this life cycle. And it is inception, fulfillment, completion / advocation. Okay, so write it down. Let's talk about inception first. This is where the student learns about your company, as the name implies, inception. This is where they are coming across your name. It doesn't have to be your company. This is applicable. This episode is applicable to really any aviation business owner, but we're going to kind of focus it on flight instructors and flight schools for this episode. So if you're a flight instructor or flight school, the inception period is where the student or potential student becomes aware of your company or you. And a lot of times that's through online means. So we really recommend, obviously, that you make an online presence. And one of those is with a good website. Obviously, here at Hanger Buds, we make websites. We make e-commerce stores. They can be used as a website for a CFI or a flight school. We have a page dedicated to showcasing your services on there as well. So the important thing is that you have a website and you chip away at improving that website. Online marketing is such a big sector. It's May 2023 right now, and obviously if you're not online, you're really not marketing at all. And there's so many ways to market online. So like, don't get lost. It's better to not have a website than to spend a lot of energy in a website that doesn't perform, if that makes sense. So uh, the inception period, without going off into a rant here, is where the student becomes aware of your company. And like I said, it's a lot of it can be online and digital, but it can also be word of mouth. Someone could tell someone else about your school or your service, and that's how they become aware of your company. But it should be thought of as, in the inception stage, your biggest thing to work on is to impress, to have a good impression on the student, whether it's word of mouth, a print flyer, a digital, a website, a Facebook post, whatever, however they stumble across you or your company, that it is a positive experience. So, and the website is kind of the core of the digital online marketing. When you get a good website going, you can funnel all your traffic to the website. So you can make Facebook posts, you can have email marketing, you can have all these things that direct the customer back to the website. And the website's where they're gaining either A, information about you, or B, they're booking services with you. The website's job is to generate leads or business for you. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it does. And in today's age, you got to create value for the customer. You have to create trust with the customer. You have to create a relationship with the customer. And you often have to do this well before you even say hi in person to the customer. So a website's a great way to do that. I'm looking down here, making sure that we cover what we need to cover here. So I have here, Inception is all about exposure, knowledge, trust, and unique offerings. Exposure simply means you're showing up. And I like saying that because a lot of people don't even show up. And what I mean by that is you're not going to get known until you get out there and put an effort in the inception stage or the marketing stage, right? If you're not printing flyers off, if you're not handing business cards out, if you're not putting a website up, if you're not doing social media posts, if you're not doing word of mouth marketing and telling people to tell people about your service and having specials where you get a discount if you refer a friend, if you're not hustling and trying to market, don't expect anything to come in. Your input is going to be directly proportionate to what you get out of it. And it may come and go. You know, sometimes it may seem like you're putting a lot of effort in and you're not getting a lot out, but it is truly a compound effect. If you work super hard at it and you keep at it and stay consistent, it eventually catches up to itself and it will come in. So you just have to stay consistent. The inception period is probably the hardest one it takes the most amount of effort to get going for the customer, for you as a CFI or flight school to invest that time in the inception part, especially if you're new. It takes the most amount of energy to make people aware of you. And so don't give up on this stage. It gets easier after this stage. Let's move on to the next page here. I have here, simply start by picking one channel where your students are hanging out. Then engage with that channel on a consistent basis. And I put 30 minutes a day. A channel in this case is like a way of marketing, a way of exposing yourself, a way of letting people know about your service. And it can be any channel. The important thing is that you pick one and you focus on it and you do a couple weeks on it. Don't spend one day on it and then forget about it. You have to spend about 30 minutes a day, 3 or 4 times a week on a channel, a marketing channel, whether it's posting on Facebook, whether it's posting videos on YouTube, whether it's printing digital flyers and pinning them up at airports, whether it's mailing potential students or just straight mailing people that aren't students to ask them if they want to learn to fly. Whatever the channel is, you have to pick one and you have to start digging into it. Maybe it's creating a website. That channel takes a little longer to establish. Like I said, it's the core. But when you have the website, now you have you can reference back to it through your other channels. A blog is a great way to just start building content, and it takes a lot of effort. But if you're an expert in an area, you can write a blog And then that gives you an anchor point to reference things to. It does take time. Do not expect to create a good blog or website overnight. It takes a long time to do that. And we're not going to talk about that right now. We have a product, a HangerBud store, that's a turnkey solution that gives you a jump start right away. And it exposes you in a great way. It's got a lot of authority, what we like to call it. So when you create a website, the authority that it has, the page authority and the domain authority, all start at 0 if you're brand new. If you start with an established website or you're getting links from other established websites, then your website automatically gets ranked higher in Google because it's more credible by Google, right? HangerBuds has got some good domain authority and page authority, so you automatically are ranking up at the top for your website. And it's an e-com store / website is what HangerBuds is. So you sell product also with your website, training products, flight training products. So it doesn't matter. The point here is to pick a channel, spend 30 minutes a day on it, 3 to 4 days a week, a marketing channel, and just dominate it, right? Just learn everything there is. I've done print marketing. I've handed business cards out. I've put flyers up. And I'm not saying this to tell you that I've been there, done that. I'm saying that because I failed in a lot of these areas too. But by doing so, I've learned a lot, and you always learn, right? Even if you don't get one sale out of your marketing channel, you learn things along the way, whether it's, hey, we're not going to do that channel because it didn't work, or maybe you learn why that channel didn't work. And so, yeah, I've been involved with flight schools and aircraft maintenance is my background, those two areas. And with the maintenance, I can say 100% with maintenance businesses, aircraft maintenance, mailers are gold. They are straight gold. And I've found that out just by trial and error. And there's a system to it, and there's a technique to it. And I don't know how long that's going to last, but we have great returns on mailers. I'm trying to think with our flight school, I don't think it was as powerful that we had mailers going. But I can't remember because I don't remember doing the mailers as much. We did a lot of digital marketing with our flight school, a lot of getting on the Google Map Pack, getting in Google organic results, making a really good website, building content on that website, offering free content. It took a lot of effort in the digital space to get our flight school up, but once we did, it was golden. Once you've put some effort into one channel, you can work on automating that channel. So by automating, let's use like Facebook as an example. Let's say you've invested some time in that channel and you've been making some posts and they're making traction, and maybe you even got some leads out of them. Now you can look at maybe scheduling future posts now, or you can even there's tons of software to automate stuff. You can just Google Facebook automations and you can start to work on automating that channel. And that will kind of help you dial back your effort into that marketing channel, and maybe you can explore another marketing channel. The important thing is that you don't just jump ship from that marketing channel without making sure that you well, let's back it up. There's two options you can do. You can either, when you have a marketing channel that you've made progress on, you can either double down and invest more time into that marketing channel and therefore maybe even get more leads out of it, or you can look to automate that channel just a little bit. And you're still going to need to monitor it, because if the performance goes down, then obviously you have to go back into it. But you can work to automate the channel, and then you can move to another channel and explore another marketing possibility or an exposure possibility. The important thing to remember is not to skim the surface on all these marketing channels. It's a lot of people will go out and just like do a little bit in each marketing area, maybe a few mailers, a couple business cards here, a Facebook post or two here, and then they stop. And if you skim the surface on a lot of marketing channels, you're not going to get any results. It's important that you dive deep into one marketing channel, you understand it, you utilize it, you learn the ins and outs of it, and you just essentially dominate that marketing channel before you move on. And it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of consistency. And the other side of it too is you may not get anything out of it. as far as leads, but you'll learn something along the way, and you'll also learn that that's not the channel that you need to focus on. The first thing to do is just to kind of try to have a good idea of where your potential customer is hanging out, whether it's a big Facebook group of student pilots that you can tap into, or you want to do some real good mailers in a high income neighborhood, right? It doesn't matter. The point is, think about where you want to go first. I recommend you go to the channel where you think the most of your customers, potential customers, are hanging out. Some popular marketing channels for students are Facebook groups, YouTube, Google search, which means showing up when someone types a question. So if a potential student pilot or customer types in how to get a pilot's license, you show up. That's Google search. And that takes a while to become dominant in that area. You have to have a website. Typically, you can have a Facebook page too, but a website's really effective, and you need to put a good article on there about how to get a pilot's license, right? And it's got to be a good article, and it's got to have a lot of weight to it. It's got to be optimized for SEO. And I'm not going to get into website stuff right now, but your exposure with the website's really important. A good quick way of jumping the ladder and getting good exposure is just by getting a HangerBuds e-com store. We have, like I said, we have a lot of domain authority with that website. So your store, your website that you create with us will automatically have a lot of domain authority and will rank in aviation search terms. So long story short, but you'll want your own website too, because you're going to want to start to build your brand, and your website online is the cornerstone to building your brand. So the last one is networking with local, or these are some ideas for popular marketing channels. Networking at local airports. This is not digital. This is old school, boots on the ground marketing. Go to the local small airports around you, and the ones that aren't offering flight instruction, or even if they are, it doesn't matter. Go to the airport manager. Get in touch with the airport manager. Take some business cards. Take a business card holder with you, maybe even a little template or a flyer holder or whatever. Make sure you take a stand with you or a little marketing piece, and talk with the airport manager and say, hey, I'd like to, would you mind recommending me for flight students that call the airport? Say I'm an independent flight instructor, or I'm a small flight school, I do work mobily, or I it doesn't matter, as long as you're professional, courteous, and you build a relationship with the airport manager. That's key. It's make face with the airport manager is what we like to call it. And it's basically just getting to know him. And that way, when he gets a student, he's more likely to recommend it to you, because the students are calling these airports asking about flight instruction because they don't know if the airport has a flight school or not. They don't know that stuff. People don't know that. They just know, oh, I have to learn to fly at an airport, so let's call the airport, right? And so it's important that you start to establish, open yourself, your exposure gateways, to make sure you're covering all your bases. And one way is establishing relationships with local airport managers to get recommendations from them. Maybe even a kickback, to the airport manager or the airport or whoever the entity is that gets the kickback. That stuff doesn't hurt, and it's very effective. I have another warning here. It's like big and bold on my clipboard. I know it's important. The inception stage, or stage where the customer becomes aware of your company, is the stage that requires the most upfront work and consistency. Once you have a solid foundation of exposure, website, social, print flyers, etc., you can dial back the marketing if you'd like. Basically, it takes a lot of effort to get going. Once you get going, you can dial back your efforts. It's always going to take some effort to stay in front of people. But the beginning is super important. It takes a lot to get established. And it's very important that you stay consistent. No matter what you do to expose yourself, stay consistent. So let's say you have, let's say you're doing Facebook and you're making traction, you're getting exposure, people are contacting you, you're starting to get leads. What's next? what do you do next, right? We're talking about the customer life cycle here, and we're in the inception stage. The next thing is when they contact you or become aware of you, you want to be unique, knowledgeable, and trustworthy, right? You want to show that person that you are the go-to source, that you know your stuff, and not only that, but you want to offer something unique, something that makes you stand out. Unique is always going to win because it's something that your competitors aren't offering. That's the key. Some ideas for some unique offerings. These are just ideas. I encourage you to be creative with your ideas to offer something unique to get people to do business with you. But some examples are provide a free guide on getting their pilot's license. And that isn't that unique anymore. But if you offer something for free in return for like their name and their email, you can market to them later. So that's a good old school one. Make sure you make a good, don't skimp on this stuff. You got to provide good content. So provide a very good step-by-step guide on how to get the pilot's license if you do that. Of course, you can recommend contact us if you want to get started within that guide. But like make sure you do a really good job on the guide. So provide a unique offering like getting a free FAR 2023 FAR book with your first hour of flight instruction. That's unique. I haven't seen that. Offer something that makes them go, hey, they offer it, but no one else does. It makes them decide to maybe go with you. It nudges them towards you. Another idea, provide a free 30-minute consultation on accomplishing their pilot goals. And this is going to slide right into, let's hold that. But the idea here is it's time to show the customer that you know what you're talking about. When they digest your information, it's important that they understand that you know what you're talking about, whether it's through a pilot guide, whether it's through a consultation, a free phone call, a discovery flight. You got to be professional, knowledgeable, and trustworthy. So now I'm going to move on to my next page, which means we're a little over halfway here. This is kind of getting closer to the fulfillment portion. So the customers become aware of you. You've interacted with them in some way. Maybe you've given them a free guide. Maybe you've talked to them on the phone. You've made it unique. You made yourself trustworthy. You made yourself knowledgeable. And now let's say they schedule with you and they provide, it's time for you to fulfill, that's the next stage, the service. I'm not going to go into fulfillment because that's the technical side of providing the ground instruction or the flight instruction. So we all know that you have to provide that service in the fulfillment area. The important thing to remember is that you do a very good job. You have to do a phenomenal job with everybody because you never know. Excuse me, let me get a drink of water. You never know who you're going to come across. Therefore, you provide exceptional service to everybody. First impressions are key, professionalism's key, being thorough is key, all that stuff. It takes a lot of effort. Let me tell you why it's important that you do that. There will be some customers that won't do a lot of business with you or might not do any business with you. But then there are the customers who, once you impress them, they're going to tell everybody they know that has an interest in flying or learning to fly. And they're going to tell their friends, and it's a cascading effect. And you don't know who is influential or not. So you don't know who your best advocates of your company are. So therefore, why don't you just impress them all? That's the important thing to remember. You must impress them all. And the best way to do that is by providing top-notch service, being on time, preparing for lesson plans, being professional, introducing yourself properly, if you mess up, make it right with them, whatever. Just provide a good experience with them because they will tell their friends. And that rolls into our third and final stage, which is completion/advocation. It means at this point, you've completed the service with the customer. Let's turn them into an advocate. Students who advocate for a company are free salesmen, and it's called word-of-mouth marketing. It is the highest converting type of marketing that there is. And it's because it's got a lot of trust in it. If I recommend a flight school to my buddy trusts that I recommend a good school. It takes a lot of money to do that online, to build trust like that online. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of money. But when you have the word of mouth do it, it's instant trust. So it's very effective, very high converting. And you do that, word of mouth is done by providing great service. And that's pretty much it. You can also throw in a little like refer a friend bonus to people. You can say, hey, we'll give you 30 minutes of free flight time if you refer a friend. You can throw that in when you're doing a service with somebody. Towards the end of the service, you can say that. And that doesn't hurt as long as you offer it professionally. But anyway, so I'm reading through my notes here. I know I've already touched a lot on providing good service so that you can have a good advocate. And I'm looking at this here to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm hitting all the highlights here. I think I'm getting it pretty solid here. One thing to remember with word of mouth marketing is it's not instant. It takes time. It's another cascade or another multiplying effect, multiplying, compounding, whatever, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. But you have to stay consistent providing good service, because it may take time for the guy that you impress that has a good influence, that is going to be a good advocate. It may take time for him to go out and tell his buddies. But when he does, they will come to you. It may be a week later, it may be a year later, maybe a month later, it may be a day later. You never know. But the important thing to remember is that it's not instant. So it does take time, and that's why it's very important to stay consistent with your good service. I'm going to go ahead and back up and just say I've thought this personally, but consistency is one of the most important words in business, and it's in every area. Whether you're marketing, whether you're providing good service, whether you're just showing up, you have to be consistent. Whatever you're doing, be consistent. Show up every day. Not every day is going to be great. There are tons of days where you just fall flat on your face or you fail, and it happens a lot. But if you stay consistent and if you show up, eventually you prevail. But with the word of mouth, what I'll end with that is saying it's very effective. It's very important that you do a good job fulfilling the service so that you get those advocates for your company. So I think we're getting close to the end here. I know we're getting on the last sheet. So as you can see, it's important to view the customer in a life cycle view. So we've gone through inception, fulfillment, and completion/advocation, those three areas. That's an example of a life cycle for a customer. Now you can look at your customer life cycle and you can go, where am I weak? Well, let's work on that, right? And the game is to always work on your weakest area. And by doing that, you're going to improve all areas. And when you do that, you create value. And when you create value, you can charge more. And you become known as a very top-notch person. Whether this is business general. It doesn't matter if you're providing flight instruction or you're a plumber. It doesn't matter. That's what it is. It's if you view it like that and you try to improve in those three areas, or if you make your own customer life cycle, you just keep improving it. You're going to start getting more people. You're going to start having higher profit margins. You're going to be able to have a successful business. So it's important that you make a customer life cycle. You can use the one that we talked about today, or you can make your own up. But make sure you look it up online, do some research, and have a customer life cycle established. That's going to wrap this lesson up. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like the content, make sure you give us a shout, whether you subscribe on our YouTube channel or like us, or you just email us. We're always available via email. We're very responsive. office@hangerbuds.com. You can comment. You can go to our website, see our podcast on there. You can comment on there or subscribe on there. Let us know how we're doing. If you have questions about any of the shows, just holler at us. This is more of discussion than it is like facts. We will throw out some facts, but every now and then, you know, it's okay for if someone wants to get on and tell us, hey, you know, maybe what you said isn't 100% right or whatever. But like, we want to hear from you. So let us know what you guys think. And with that being said, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time on the Hanger Bud Show.